Coming to you from the city of the weird. Exploring topics from the esoteric and unexplored to dimensions unknown. Shining a light of truth on the darkest corners of our reality. Welcome to the Curious Realm.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Curious Realm's official coverage of PsiGames 2025 right here in Charlottesville, Virginia. We are very pleased to welcome our first guest, Elly Molina. She is the author of Children Who Know How to Know, as well as the amazing children's book, Annabelle and the Domino. She is also the founder of Psi Kids Academy. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Let's start at the beginning, Elly. How did you first come to the world of, I guess, psychic knowledge, psychic teachings, things like that?
Well, first it started as a child, and I had experiences, and many children have experiences, and it's what happens to children with their families that either allow them to develop or it gets shut down. In my case, my mother kind of encouraged it, and then I started playing tarot cards at age 12 and playing with them. And my mother handed me an astrology book when I was 12, Linda Goodman. And then I started learning how to cast charts the old-fashioned way.
Wow.
So by the time I got into school and by the time I graduated college, let's go back there.
Sure.
And I landed my first teaching job, I started noticing, I was teaching ESL, English as a Second Language, and I started noticing that the children were really very psychic, so I started capitalizing on their ability, and we started doing psychic games during our English class, and just continued to go and grow. And I was joking around earlier at the presentation. I said I always wanted to write a book called Yes You Can, but Louise Hay beat me to it. So then I ended up later writing Children Who Know How to Know.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the work with the children became stronger and stronger, and by 2005, I was working in inner city school, New York City, and my principal saw what was happening in my classrooms just by using affirmations and who we are being, ontology. So she allowed me to create a program called Power to Create, and in that program, for 1 year, I worked with children to remote view and see without their eyes and start to manifest and learn how to use language as a tool to access the unknown and the create reality. And then from there, that grew even more, and I found a school out in Washington State where I could teach it was called the Magic School, is what we called it. And the book Annabelle and the Domino is actually based on a true story of my experiences there. So what we did at that school, is we did remote viewing. We did telekinesis. We did blindfolded archery, working with random generators. Telepathy, I think I said that. So basically, and neuroscience. And then we did a regular curriculum as well. So from that, when our school lost funding, I started working privately with parents and their children, which then led to the book, it led to the research, it led to the developing that. And that's where I've been at. In the meantime, now I work with adults, and I teach adults. I'm doing a program now in Irv. I'm doing a class to teach the parents and educators how to teach this ability to the children.
You know, you've brought up a few things that we touch point on regularly on this show, and especially with this show, this event in particular, it's one of those, the thing that I love most is the next generation concept. One of the things I bring up in my talk is that the idea, I'm coming on 50 this year. Whenever I walk into a Knights of Columbus meeting, people are buying me beer. Because they're like, look at this young guy. And I'm like, I am 50. I am not the demographic you need to be courting. Like, we need to be looking at people my children's age, 8. We need to be looking at 12-year-olds to get interested in the science end of this.
I agree.
Because if not, then who's going to be investigating the science part on behalf of us? You know, because this is one of the only parapsychological disciplines that began in a lab. You know, and it's really interesting to look at it that way and to see that science has been hand in hand with remote viewing the whole time. And the idea that you brought up as somebody who worked in youth ministry for many years, the idea of the Montessori concept of let the kid tell you how to teach them, let the kid tell you what they're into, and nosedive into that. You know, lean into it because that's how they're going to learn. And yeah, the cultural aspect, especially here in America, of squashing those talents, of saying that's just imagination, let it go, of not giving it credence. When you start looking, especially Latin American cultures, things like that, this is a familial bloodline thing for them. This is something that if Nana had the gift, then Mom more than likely does, and you have connection to it. So especially Eastern Europe, things like that, the whole world over just about accept us. Even England with the past history of tea leaf reading and things like that. These are all concepts that to an extent tie into remote viewing and are very much shunned in our society.
Yes. And that touches upon the work that I'm doing now also. So what I'm doing now as an extension of the Psi Kids work, because it goes hand in hand, and I teach this also to the children, I just teach it differently, is the concept that I coined now, Scientology. Now, this is not to be confused with Scientology, Ron Hubbard. This is PSI ontology. So who are we being as psychic beings? That is who we are now being. That is what I teach the children first. Before we do the phenomena, we want to understand who are we being, what language are we using that will allow us to create the access to the unseen. Yeah, well, and that was even a topic that came up a couple years ago at IRVA and came up again last year on the IRVA cruise, was the idea of international remote viewing. And much like in science, you know, it's funny because, of course, here in America, we do not use the metric system unless you're a scientist, because it's an international language. You know, much, it's something that I explain to my son all the time is you can read music. You could go to China, and whether or not you speak Chinese, you and that flute player both speak music. That's right. You both speak a universal language that every person here understands. So the idea of, are we using nomenclature that, let's say, translates properly as a cognate between English, Spanish, Romanian, things like that? You know, is the word that we're using to describe something, does it describe the same thing in the same way in another language? And especially as an ESL teacher, you know, that's a big part, the idea of cognate and how do we shake hands between these languages. And even with remote viewing, how do you get the average person to shake hands with the language? Right. Are you asking me? Yeah. How do you begin to get people prepared to shake hands with the language and nomenclature of remote viewing? Because there is some protocoled language inside of there, in some techniques. Right. So that's where my work differs a little bit from your typical remote viewing, the protocols of remote viewing, CRV, ARV, all of that. So I work differently. It's even from different, it's basically like very similar to mind sight. So we don't need to have all those protocols. We don't need to have that language. What we do need to have is understanding the worldview that we have been dropped into, which is a worldview historically of there's something wrong and we need to fix it. And that is the world that we've been dropped into. And the world of remote viewing and mind sight and feeling energy and being super psychic exists in a world where anything is possible. So that is what I start to teach, and how to reframe that mind, that worldview from the existing one they're dropped into, we're all dropped into the new worldview model that I have been working with, which is called which I call Scientology. So that is how I begin to, that is the way that I begin to do it, through language first, through language, storytelling. Again, whenever I'm doing a class, I always read Annabelle and the Domino, which is based, even to adults, it's based on a true story of a little girl who chose to go perform telekinesis and had no boundaries of, oh, I can't, this is not possible. She was raised in this way that anything is possible. This is what we do in our family. We know how to move energy. We know how to do this. And it's just practice, sweetheart, and practice. So I've had two of my own students do it, and then again, this was a girl from another class. So in my experience with this, I've seen 3 children perform telekinesis of this kind, moving dominoes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And once again, the idea of dropping the preconceived notion of the box that we live in, the box that we've been dropped in, and using that language to free things, because it is hard. Once again, I have an 8-year-old, and I try to keep to everything open concept for him, and especially because he's a very, very high energy individual, not like hyper or anything like that, but he's got a big energy.
Right.
And that can affect a room when you walk in, and kind of making him present of mind of, need to reel the energy in a little bit. Bring it in closer, because there are some people who will respond lovingly and amazingly to that energy, but there's some people that may shy away from it, because it's a little too intense. And if you're trying to make friends and be friends right off, you need to keep that energy close, buddy. How do you begin that conversation with a kid of learning to get in touch with that energy that is moving through and from them?
Well, it really depends. Again, it depends on the class that I'm working with. It depends on the children that I'm working with. For the most part, we do a lot of, in the beginning, the initial stages is language, is feeling. What are we feeling? Getting in touch with our emotions and discerning, again, from stories that we create about, I call it what's so. So basically, your son comes into a room and he's very, let's use the word active, if that's an appropriate term. And so if he's being active and interacting with other people, and then what I teach children is not to create a story about what that means. Okay, so he's just interacting with children, and that's all that is.
Yeah.
And the perception of what other people think about it is not necessarily reality. So it's perception. So then I start working from that point, and we start looking at the individual children. And it goes into detail, right? And
Sure.
And then from there, we start to create a language that we're going to use for our abilities, like basically almost like affirmations about what we can do, what is possible. And so that framework is created that this is possible, this is doable, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I can do this. And then the children just do it because they can do it anyway. And they don't have the fears necessarily. It depends on the child, unless they're raised, from that way. And
Well, because there can be a lot of religious hurdles if you're brought up in that way.
Exactly.
There can even just be a lot of social hurdles if you unfortunately are a child that is not necessarily encouraged and rooted in encouragement. I mean, sadly, that is the fact with a lot of kids. That I'm very fortunate for the fact that me and my wife own and run our business, so we're there.
Right.
Like I was brought up by a single mom who went to college.
Right.
She worked 2 jobs. Like I was an '80s latchkey kid.
Right.
I'm lucky to be here.
Right.
But at the same time, getting somebody to unweave that and getting them, because it can be very hard for adults, I think, to. The way I explain it to people with remote viewing is you have to drop the preconceived notions of I can't or it's not possible. Those things that pop in and out of your head while you're driving your car, stuff like that. Like, pay attention to it. You'd be surprised the threads that it's actually pulling, the places that you're going, because we are non-local consciousness. We are one of the things I talk about on my show and in my talk regularly is we go through the majority of our day in a state of rote hypnosis.
That's right.
From the time you've learned to become ambulatory, you no longer think let me get up and walk to the refrigerator. You just think, I'm thirsty, and your body moves and goes.
That's right.
You know, so we are always getting and receiving these cues and information from the world around us. The difference is whether or not we're actively processing them and paying attention to them.
Right, exactly. And it takes a lot. It takes education. This is another level of what I do. Again, you know, and in 30 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, you know,
It's tough. It's tough.
Well, it's years of working.
Absolutely.
It's years of working with children and undoing. And I was a middle school teacher for over 30 years. Okay, so even in the classroom, this has nothing to do with psychic abilities. Now, this is creating the safe space so that they can continue to learn, and teaching them consciousness and awareness and becoming present. And I have all of those exercises. Like, what does it look like to be present, to stop the monkey mind for all of us at each moment? What does that look like?
I had a Spanish teacher in junior high who realized that it wasn't that I didn't know Spanish. I just got worked up before a test. Like worked up, like nauseous, sick, go to the nurse, worked up. And she was the one who took me aside and showed me some breathing exercises. I think that, like, looking back, it's really one of the first times that I could actively say, like, I was exhibiting anxiety. And what I now know through years of therapy, like, see it, recognize it, don't fight it, acknowledge it, keep moving forward. You know, give it its space. Much like any person, give them their space, give them their respect. Understand that that's an integral part of you. That's an important thing. You know, you don't have to be afraid of your anxiety, because your anxiety may actively be leading you down these roads. You know, and it's really interesting when you start breaking that apart. The way that, once again, our preconceived minds and the way that our culture has put these things onto us.
Right, and the language that we use, that we've inherited. My story is we speak dead people's language. Okay, we speak the same things that Shakespeare said, and even before Shakespeare, we use the same words, the same vocabulary, the same concepts. And so even every time we label something, also like, oh, I have anxiety, or I have this, we're creating another construct around our abilities and who we are. So we really need a complete re-education, which is where I'm going with this. So I'm re-educating the people that I speak with. I'm re-educating the people that read my newsletters, that read my blog posts. I'm re-educating the children. I'm actually re-educating the children, all right, from where they've come from into what is now possible. But I have to work with the parents. One has to go together, because I remember a long time ago, one of the kids went home and he said to his mom, "Oh, Miss Elly," this is what little kids, right? "Miss Elly says, we don't use should." And she came back to me and she goes, "What do you mean? I use should all the time." And, you know, it's like, oh.
Let's talk about that,
That's
Mom.
right. That's right.
Should you be using should?
That's right.
How'd that feel?
That's right.
And, you know, that brings up a really huge psychological point, and that is the idea of being blocked, and the idea of being told what to do and how to do it, because we once again have that preconceived notion, and it's really hard to unprogram that.
That's right.
And you know, one of the things, as somebody who substitute taught for years, I come from a family of teachers. I did youth ministry for a decade of my life and taught in classrooms, and that's something that I bring up all the time, is that we all learn in different ways. That's right. And the only difference between a 4-year-old and a 40-year-old is, technically by 40 you should know better than to pull people's hair. I didn't get out of it because of the kids, everybody. It was the parents, because it does take a training of the parents. And even with my kid in his classroom, my rules at home are, can you do that at school?
Right.
Would that be acceptable in your teacher's classroom? Then we can't do that here. Because there is no separation of that boundary really before the age of 10. You know, it's kind of one of those, like, a joke about bodily sounds is funny, but until 10, you don't really know the appropriate time. Like, should I tell that at school right now? You know, that's really a 10-year-old and up mentality thing to grasp that subtle social barrier as to when to do something. So Yeah, the idea of undoing some of that and trying to let kids understand that what you're feeling is okay. It's and even when it comes to big feelings,
right.
it's okay to feel it. It's what you do with it
That's right.
that matters. You know, whether it's bullying or what have you.
Right.
So
I like to use the term like, who are you being?
Yeah.
All the time, like, who are you being? So
yeah.
I work with that. Also, I work with the adults. Obviously, I have to work with the adults and reframing all of this.
Yeah.
And then we're working with the children now. So it's morphed into, first it was all just working with the kids, and then, but now it's more working with the adults.
Absolutely.
And even people that are grandparents. It's just working with people in general.
Well, it's because once again, if what's happening in the classroom is not being exuded at home, if it's not being reinforced at home, it's almost being unwoven at home.
And to that, I have to also add that a lot of teachers do need to have this education. Also, they need to be retrained.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Amen
and that's a whole other ball game.
You know, that would actually be a really, really beautiful curriculum to write. I remember in junior high, I cannot remember the acronym, but I belonged to it was an elite club at school. There were all of 15 or 20 of us. But they basically took people from the various strata and cliques in the 7th grade and put us into a group together for 6th period. And we would go out and we would do like outreach programs, like going and giving bags of gifts to homeless kids, stuff like that. But it was care. It was care. And the whole idea was, how can we change the strata of the school by having these people from these communities be okay with each other and talk with each other and support each other, like the preps, the jocks, the theater kids, stuff like that. How can we bring them all together and make all of them understand that if you're good with this person, the 8 people behind you are going to be good with this person, you know, and really that understanding of who am I amongst the rabble, you know, and if you're well self-identified, then you don't need to worry about the rabble.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I've always said my job as a parent is to raise the most independent 8-year-old I can. If I have to watch my 8-year-old like a hawk, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's me.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Right.
So how do we begin to let schools know that? How do we take that step toward future-looking curriculum in that kind of way as a former teacher?
Okay, well, that's one.
In 8 minutes or less.
No, I don't know if I can go there because you know that
it's hard.
Well, it's very political. Okay,
Yes.
so our education system is enmeshed with politics.
Yes, it
and that
is.
is just what's so.
Yeah.
And as for me, it's an institution, and if any institution is run as an institution, and in institutions, freedom has been taken away, and it is a prescribed program, which is the reason, even though I had a small window of being able to do what I wanted to do within those parameters, it was the reason that I left public education.
Yeah.
And so when I did go to teach at the quote-unquote magic school, where we had the freedom, we had a curriculum so that the children would learn how to read and write and social studies and all of that, and have activities and gym, all of the prescribed things that one needs to be a healthy social person.
Yeah.
Only we had room to teach other skills, basically self-awareness, meditation, if you want to call it, mindfulness, all right? And then all of these processes, and also the idea that children, as everybody else, we make up stories all the time. Oh, he doesn't like me, especially kids, all right? He doesn't like me, she doesn't like me, and then we start creating stories, and et cetera, et cetera. And so I spend time with the kids, teaching them to break down the story and to look at what was the interaction, what really happened. And it takes a little bit longer. I talk about it in more detail in my book. But we break down the interaction. And, you know, Johnny didn't want to play with you because he wanted to play by himself. Is that okay? It's okay.
Yeah.
And we don't make it mean all this other stuff. But to teach that, because everybody's always creating all of this meaning to, oh, he looked at me this way, it means, okay. And then we create an entire world perspective around that and our life around it. And this one's not talking to that one because they sneezed at the wrong time and they made it mean X, Y, Z. all of that needs reframing, restructuring. It needs re-education.
That is a fully us problem, and it really is one of those, because it's a conversation we have regularly on the show, and that is the idea of the filter through which you are viewing a situation. My brother and I were both brought up in the same home. You ask us about our experience at Christmas in 1989, we're gonna have two different experiences. We're people brought up by the exact same parents in the exact same home, but we're individuals, and we process that. We look at it through but we polish different filters.
Oh, absolutely. When I hear my sons talk, all right, same story. My one son will say, that didn't happen like that. And the other one is, yes, it did.
It did.
You weren't there.
You're the stupid one that doesn't remember things.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I was there. Okay?
Yeah. Exactly. And
it's fascinating.
It really is that experiential filter through which we tie things, and it's funny because one of the things I say on the show all the time is stop having the conversation on the way to the table. Every time you have a conversation on the way to the table, you are just mixing the mortar and building the wall on your way there.
That's right. Exactly.
Stop rehearsing it.
That's right.
Let it actively happen.
That's right.
Let them have because otherwise you're literally putting words into that person's mouth.
Absolutely.
You are rehearsing your response. You're getting yourself wound up. You're getting yourself over nothing. Over something that may be absolute. Until you get there, you don't know.
Right.
So stop practicing it. Stop. You've literally consented into the system of giving your power away at that point.
Yeah. And then also, just as you were saying to that, by having that conversation run in your head prior, we're creating that. That is part of the creation in the quantum field. Okay.
Exactly.
So now there we're going to get, and that's the response. It's going to the way you filter it. It's all really brilliant.
With my observation in field log, that's literally one of the things I bring up with paranormal investigation. Have a rote list of equipment that you're not going to forget. And did I print my map to the location? Done. Don't go watch stories about where you're going to investigate. Don't go read books about it. Blank slate, because A, you're just polishing the filter. B, you may well be manifesting the thing that you're going to look at.
That's right.
You may be the responsible party there. That's right. You may have fully charged that atmosphere for your presence.
That's right.
Which, if that's the experiment you're doing, cool.
Yeah.
But let's scientifically write that down and make it such. If you're going in blank and trying to just get something, you are actively interfering with that field of experience.
That's right.
So that's a huge, important part that a lot of people do not get, that I think is really starting to hit the scene now.
I really intend that it does, because to stop creating these stories in everything, because it permeates. It permeates everything. Our world is run by this, and everything that we're experiencing is run by the stories that are created by people in their mind and the interpretations. So we gotta start new, and that's what the work that I'm doing, Psi Ontology, is all a part of. Who are we being in the world of our abilities, our human potential, and creating these events like this today. Having so many people from different realms come together, and then recognizing, okay, our potential is there.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about it in such a way that we are one with it, that we understand it, that we can embrace it, and we no longer think it's strange, and we don't have any of these, woo-woo stuff like that.
Or look at people like they're strange because they have the experience.
That's right. That's right.
Precisely. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today, Elly. It's been fantastic. Let everybody know, especially parents, especially teachers. If you were a teacher out there, number one, this is a coffee break book. That's how thick it is, all right? Valuable, hugely valuable information.
It's packed with information. I kept it very concise with a lot of information.
I skimmed through about 20 or 30 pages of it a while ago while I was sitting here, and it's absolutely awesome. I love it. I love it because it's so necessary to let our kids know that, A, who you are is okay, what you feel is okay. It doesn't have to be strange. It doesn't have to be paranormal. It just is, So let everybody know where they can go to get their copy of Children Who Know How to Know, as well as Annabelle and the Domino.
Well, okay, in a nutshell, Children Who Know How to Know is available. This is a reprint, new second edition that just came out. So this is on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's only on Amazon, all right. So, and Children Who Know How to Know is currently only available available by contacting me. So they'd have
Oh.
to email me or go
Fantastic.
to the website and then order a copy.
Well, great. I am so excited for this. It's great.
And I have my online courses if parents want to
Awesome.
teach their children, and that is on my website. So you go to my website, you check the resources, and then you'll find the online courses for teaching children how to develop their psychic abilities.
Great. And what is that website? Where can they go to find all that?
Oh, guess where? EllyMolina.com.
That's right. EELLYMOLINA.com, everybody. Elly, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
meeting you today. I can't
Thank
wait
you.
for us to talk more over the next few days.
Thank you.
While
Looking
you are
forward.
Same. While you are online, everybody, checking out all the great work of Elly Molina, stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can like, follow, subscribe. CuriousResearch.org is where you can get your copy of the field observation log, as well as the all-new remote viewing session journal. Stay tuned through this quick commercial break. We will be right back with our continuing on-site coverage of PsiGames 2025 right here in Charlottesville, Virginia, right after this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.
The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the field observation and encounter log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious